Alright, what's going on guys, it's Sam here, and in this video, I'm going to be teaching you how to never lose another game in Domination again, whether it's regular, historic, all-time, or maybe a future Domination they add. Either way, it doesn't matter. These tips right here are going to make sure you guys meet the MT requirements every game, score every possession on offense pretty much, and just never lose another game again. So, let's go ahead and get right into it. And just quickly before we get into the video, guys, I'm just going to put some timestamps up on the screen and in the description. So if you want to skip through the video, if you have like a certain part you want to watch, or you're struggling with a certain part, you can go ahead and skip to that, or you're more than welcome to watch the whole thing. That would be much appreciated as well. But either way, I thought I'd put these on the screen. Alright, so the first thing we're going to start with, guys, is the lineup. And this is the exact lineup I use to beat the teams in all-time domination, regular domination, and then historic. You saw I went halfway through it, but if I can beat all time, I can beat historic. I just haven't done it. Now, the first thing you'll notice is I have George Mikan at center, and yes, ignore that. George Mikan is just a placeholder for the badges I'm going to be talking about here. I actually used Diamond Alonzo Mourning at the center position, but other than that, this is the exact team I used to win domination. And to be honest, just ignore the bench. I used a 5-man lineup. Stamina doesn't mean anything this year, so all you need are 5 players. And at the 1, I use Maurice Cheeks. This card is just absolutely insane. Clamps. That's pretty much my priority here on this team, just defense. And Maurice Cheeks, great, cheap point guard, great defense. I did add a couple badges here. Now I'm just going to quickly show you because they are very, very important. And you'll notice here we have Heart Crusher on silver, and I threw Intimidator on here as well. You don't really have to have that, but Heart Crusher is by far the most important badge for this entire lineup, especially for your bigs. I didn't throw Heart Crusher on Allen Houston or Bailey Howell, which I highly recommend you get Bailey Howell as well. This card is going to be doing all the scoring for you, so Bailey Howell is a must, at least at this point in the year. Maybe there's going to be better cards depending on when you're watching this in the year, but Bailey Howell, as of September 24th, go get this card right now. This card carried me and scored all my points with the play that I'm going to recommend here in a little bit. So Bailey Howell, must have for the lineup. Allen Houston, you might be saying you want defense, but he's not really a defensive player. I got one with clamps, but really you can throw any defensive player here. I just threw Allen Houston because he's like the only guy who can make a three-pointer at this point in the game. So if you can get a 3-and-D player who can hit threes for you and play defense, replace him with Allen Houston. Then Giannis and George Mikan, or Giannis and Alonzo Mourning. These are by far the most important because the CPU likes to make a lot of BS shots around the rim. We know that. And you need to have Heart Crusher and Pogo Stick on all your players here. So Giannis, I went ahead, picked him up because it's Giannis. He's a great card, and he has the Heart Crusher, he has Intimidator, and the Pogo Stick. If you guys don't know why I'm recommending Heart Crusher, this is the main reason right here. We're gonna go ahead and just go look on the auction house, and it's really, really cheap actually to get Heart Crusher. I believe it's like 1,000 MT. And we go to badges here. Let me find it. And Heart Crusher, by far, guys, like I've said this enough already, is by far the most important badge alongside Pogo Stick to have on your bigs so they can jump multiple times and block shots. Pogo Stick, by the way, super cheap, like 1,000 MT, 900, around 900 to 1,200 MT. Definitely want to have that at least on bronze on all your bigs. I threw Pogo Stick on Alonzo Mourning, must have. But looking at Heart Crusher, the main thing, legit guys, you have to have this on all your players if you can, because if you read the description, it says it decreases your opponents, and the apostrophes after the S, so that means the entire team. This decreases the entire team, opposing team's takeover meters when you achieve a highlight play on defense, which means a steal or a block. So anytime you get a block or a steal with any of your players who have this badge, the entire CPU's team gets cold, or at least they lose stats. And if everyone has Heart Crusher on your team and you get multiple steals and blocks, pretty much the CPU is cold the entire game and they can't score. So I can't emphasize enough, make sure you have Heart Crusher on Giannis, or whatever power forward you have, whatever center, definitely your center, because your center's gonna be getting blocks. And if you could, put it on all your players, because if you get a steal or block, it makes your opponent cold or the CPU cold. So I can't emphasize enough, get Heart Crusher. It's the best 900 MT you will ever spend when playing domination. And lastly, before we go ahead and load up into a domination game and I show you guys some other tips, we have to talk playbooks. go ahead, go scoop up the Pistons playbook on the auction house. Right now I looked, it's about 3,000 MT. So go ahead, go pick up the Pistons playbook. I know there's some other alternatives out here, but this is the cheapest one and the best playbook that I found to score pretty much 98% of the time against the CPU. And even then, when they start to double, which I'll be showing you here in a little bit, you have an open dunk to the hoop every time. So go ahead, go pick up the Pistons playbook before we get into the next part of the tutorial. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and load up into a game here, and guess what? Just because I'm so confident in my own tutorial, we're gonna go ahead and load up against the hardest team in Domination, or at least the last team you have to play in All-Time Domination. As you see here, the 2010s All-Star team. We're gonna go ahead and load up, play against them on 3-star difficulty, and I'm gonna show you guys exactly what I did here to beat this team by, I believe it was like 25 points when the game was over. So let's go ahead, I'll skip forward to that. Okay, so we're all loaded up into the game now, and let's go ahead and head down to the game plan and the defensive settings. These are probably the most important things you have to set every game if you want to have an easier time against the CPU. So what you want to do is go to on-ball pressure, move this over to smother, off-ball pressure, put this on deny, go down to on-ball screen, put this on go over, scroll all the way down to the bottom and put the drive help rules on no help, and then the screen help rules, put this on no help as well. And then lastly here, I haven't seen any other people recommend this, but for me, I found this to be extremely helpful, especially knowing what we know about the Heart Crusher badge. If you guys don't know what or didn't watch the first part of the video, Heart Crusher, basically, whenever you get a steal with a player who has that badge, it makes the entire CPU team or the opposing team lose, take over, or, you know, makes them colder. So if you get multiple steals or blocks with people that have the Heart Crusher badge, it's going to be super hard for the CPU to score. So basically what you want to do, since I put Heart Crusher on my opposing or on my point guard, what you want to do is go to the CPU's primary ball handler, or in this case the point guard most of the time, that's going to be bringing the ball up the court, and put extend pressure on yes. It's going to be on automatic normally, but I went ahead and put it on yes. And basically what you're going to do is change the matchups too. I already put it on Maurice Cheeks. You could have it on automatic, but if you don't have a really good point guard that's a good defender, you could always, you know, switch it to your shooting guard or something. Basically put a really good defender or someone who has Heart Crusher, you know, your best defender with Heart Crusher on the main ball handler for the CPU, because they're going to be getting steals for you probably 2 to 5 times a game, and you don't have to do anything because they're going to be full court pressing for you. And like I said, every time you get a steal, it makes the CPU cold and harder for them to score. So make sure you do this for all the primary ball handlers. I believe off the bench it's Chris Paul. So in this case, again, since I'm going to be running just a 5-man, I'd put Maurice Cheeks on Chris Paul and scroll all the way down to extend pressure and put this on yes. Now, one other thing before we go ahead and get into the offensive settings, make sure you're changing the on-ball and off-ball pressure for the non-shooters. So Dwight Howard in this case is the only guy on this team who can't shoot, and you don't need to smother him or deny the ball for Dwight Howard. You want, if anything, you want the CPU to shoot shots with these guys, because they won't hit them consistently at all. Like, that's the one thing I noticed. Dwight Howard will not be making any shots. So what you want to do is put the on-ball pressure on gap and put the off-ball pressure on leave him. And legit, your CPU on your team is just going to leave Dwight Howard wide open, and he's either going to just run at the rim and you can probably just block him manually, or he's going to pull it for a mid-range and just clank it every time, which is great. So make sure you do that for all the non-shooting bigs. I think on this team, maybe Giannis. Giannis is kind of a tricky one, but I believe when I play this game, I put it on gap and leave him as well. So those are the defensive settings you need to set up for every single game. It's just going to make it that much easier for you to, you know, make the CPU colder and just play better defense. We already know the CPU hits crazy shots, and this will definitely help. Now, the last thing here you want to do in the settings is go over to offensive settings, and this is where you want to make sure you have the Pistons playbook. That's what I'm going to be using in this example. I know there's other playbooks like the Mavs and stuff, but this is the only playbook that has the play that I'm going to be recommending you here. And what you want to do is go down to play selection. You already watched me here. Go down to play selection, hit the square button, or I don't know what it is on Xbox, but remove this play and then hit X and then scroll down, and the play is called Quick 15 Horns Dive. And you want to equip this to a player who has slippery off ball or the Bailey Howell card. I recommend this Bailey Howell. Don't use anyone else other than Bailey Howell. He does this play so well. I mean, you can use someone else who has slippery off ball. I mean, Allen Houston I know has Hall of Fame, but this Bailey Howell card dunks it every time. So what you want to do is scroll down to the play, hit triangle, which assigns the play to someone, and then you can click on the player that you want to assign it to, and we're going to assign it to Bailey Howell. And so going ahead and getting into the play now, it's super simple. Since we assigned it to the 4th slot, all you have to do is tap the L1 button twice if you're on PlayStation, or I believe it's left bumper if you're on Xbox, and it'll run the play. And I'll go ahead and slow it down here. You'll see that the play starts with the player you assigned it to, so in this case Howell has to be at the top of the key. And if you guys are wondering why you see lines on my court, it's because I have play vision on full. If you want to see the play, you know, like the play vision, the lines on the ground, go into your coach settings and turn all that stuff on. But the play works regardless without that. And you'll see the play starts with Howell at the top of the key, and you're going to pass it down to your center. And you'll see, this is probably the most important part. If you wait and let the play run out, he'll cut to the hoop slowly. But if you manually tell him to cut by aiming the left stick or the left analog pointed at Howell, or the person that's running the play, he'll cut to the hoop much faster. And then when you let go of the triangle button, and again, I don't know what button it is on Xbox, but when you let go of the button, it'll pass it to him. So you'll see me in these clips here doing this multiple times by telling him to cut to the hoop. Some people say this play is bad because it takes forever for the guy to cut to the hoop, but if you tell him to manually cut, he'll run at the hoop a lot quicker. And the reason I love this Howell card is because he dunks the ball every time. Now, you will notice here in some of the clips, we are starting to get double teamed after 2 or 3 dunks, but guess what? The play is just as good. Sometimes you can still dunk the ball, as you'll see in some cases. I still can get the ball to Howell, and he's even more wide open for a dunk. Or you'll see that sometimes when we're double teamed, don't freak out. All you have to do is aim the left stick or the left analog at Giannis. It's usually the power forward who's left wide open, and you can get Giannis a cut to the hoop and he can score. Or even better, if you have a good three-point shooter, you'll see here in one of these clips, they leave the three-point shooter, or the shooting guard comes over and helps, and Allen Houston's wide open for a 3, and you can get your threes that way, wide open threes. So either way, this play is great. All you have to do is read and react and not freak out when you get double teamed. The double teams are pretty bad this year, so you do have to work kind of quickly, but don't freak out too much. As you'll see, if you kind of like dribble away with your center, you're holding L2 and you're kind of like dribbling away so they can't grab the ball just yet. That'll get you some time. You can just dump it off to someone who's wide open. So double teams, some people hate them, but in this case, I love them because that means someone is wide open for a bucket. And the last thing I want to cover here, guys, in this video is, again, a very important thing you have to make sure you do every game just to make sure you get enough MT to get all 3 stars. Because the last thing you want to do is get through the game, win the game, but not have enough MT to get the 3 stars and then have to replay it. So these are some tips I have for you to make sure you get the MT amount. So the first 2 are the most obvious ones, and most people know it is the 3-point and free throw requirements. So basically, if you don't know what this is, basically, if you look at the team comparison here on screen, you'll see this is just from the first quarter alone, from the clips you were seeing. Look at this, 100%. That's insane using this method. But we're not going to shoot 100% the whole game. But what you want to do is shoot at a minimum 5 3-pointers a game. And if you can go 5 for 5 or 4 for 5, 3 for 5, anything, just make sure you shoot at least 5 3-pointers. The higher percentage, the better. You will get some MT or points at the end extra just based off the percentage. So if I went 5 for 5 and didn't shoot any more threes, at the end of the game, I'll get an additional 100 MT. So make sure you guys are getting your minimums done, as we like to call them, or your requirements. Shoot 5 threes. The higher percentage, the better. Sometimes I would shoot 4, or sometimes I would shoot 5 and I'd only make 4. And guess what? That's fine with me, and I would not shoot the rest of the game because I want that 80%. I want that 80% or the 80 points that I will get extra at the end of the game. And then lastly, we have the free throws, and you need to shoot at least minimum 10 free throws a game. And this by far is probably the most annoying one. You can just chuck threes. If let's say you made 2 threes and you need 3 more in the fourth quarter, you could just chuck half-court shots. But free throws, those are a little bit trickier. What I would find myself doing a lot was at the end of the third quarter, if I only had 5 3-pointers, or not 3-pointers, 3 or 5 free throws, what I would do is either wait till the end of the game and let the CPU get within 7, because if it gets within 7, the CPU will foul you with like under a minute left in the game, and then you can just get your free throws that way. Or if you're like way ahead of the game, or not way ahead, you can just do this regardless if you're way ahead. Just start running at the hoop and Euro stepping with any players, and the way the fouls are called this year, you can get a lot of fouls. So if I was at 5, my goal would probably be to get at least 5 free throws. I mean, if you could get 10 the first half, that'd be impressive, but get at least 5 by halftime, and then the second half, once you have a decent lead, just run at the hoop and Euro step, or just ramrod at the hoop and try to get foul calls. And again, the emergency button or emergency idea is like with under a minute left. If you're up by a lot, just purposely foul the CPU so they go to the line, and once they get it within 7, they'll start to purposely foul you, and then you can get your 10 free throws. So just make sure you get those done. Those are like the biggest boosts of getting MT. Another thing you got some extra MT doing is fast break points. I definitely recommend scoring on the fast break. A lot of times here in the clips, you've probably seen me showing this video, I wasn't scoring the fast break, but that's just because I was trying to do that play. If you can score on the fast break, do it, because you get extra additional MT per bucket by scoring in the fast break and stuff like that. So definitely score in the fast break. Steals get you a lot of extra MT too, blocks, stuff like that. But the minimums, the 3-pointers, and the free throws are definitely the most important, and make sure you get those done. But alright guys, that's going to do it for this domination tutorial. If you learned anything new or it just helped you out, please go ahead and hit the like button for me. That'd be greatly appreciated. It really does help me out. And if you want to be super nice, leave a comment too. That just helps out the performance of the video. And subscribe if you're new, because we live stream here on YouTube every single day on my team. And I upload other videos such as tutorials, gameplay, stuff like that. So go ahead, subscribe if you like what you see here. But guys, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace out.